to, I can start. Okay. I've been given the okay on our side. So welcome everyone. Welcome to today's Meetup Live event. Before we get too deep into this, just want to share some quick event guidelines here. This event will be recorded, but it's us being recorded. It's not you being recorded, so don't worry about that, but you'll be able to catch up afterwards. For some reason, you have to leave early, although we have some scintillating content today, so we'll try to make it worth staying all the way through. Your audio will be muted during the event. If you do have a question, and Joshua has already told us that he has many questions, please use the Q&A feature to submit those questions. And we have some wonderful folks over here in the Meetup site who will be helping us look through those questions and find ways to serve you and answer those during this time together. Closed captioning is available. To turn on, click the live transcription icon at the bottom of your screen and select your preference. If that's not working, please call it out and we'll do our best to fix it on our end. All righty, here's the agenda. We tried to keep it pretty simple. Quick introduction. That's now, you're in it. Then we're gonna run through 25 minutes of engineering updates with myself and our brand new guest star here, Rajib. And then we're setting aside some time at the end for Q&A. And with that, I'm gonna start off by introducing myself. Some of you will have bumped into me prior. I think I did one of these events for Meetup back in August. I just tried to give you all some of the context on where we're going on the technical journey here. My background is in mostly startups and a little bit of agile consulting, which is a whole story for another day. I've been with Meetup on this journey, starting with the WeWork saga and then leading us through the divestment and a shift into tech strategy. I'm also a longtime Meetup organizer. I pay Meetup money out of my pocket as a user and a customer of the platform, which gives me, I think, some self-righteous ability to feed my own grumbles back into our tech team here and our product team here internally. And my goal really, and the mission I came here to try to accomplish, was to improve the quality of Meetup software for our users. And you know, we've made some progress there, but there's a journey ahead of us. But with that, I am thrilled to introduce someone who's new here to Meetup, my boss, and someone who we really brought in to help elevate Meetup to that next level and lead us through the next stage in our journey as an independent company. His name is Rajib Ahmed. Rajib, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Brian. Yes, I'm super excited today. Rajib Ahmed, a CTO here at Meetup. I joined back in October of 2020, so it's officially been 6-7 weeks. And it's so far been a wonderful experience. I'm originally from Bangladesh. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, in Jersey now. I always miss Brooklyn, but I'm so happy to see that we have so many folks that joined from so many different locations. A bit of background about myself. I've been in tech probably 16.5 years now. Really a lot of disruptive companies in different organizations. I started off in the government industries. I moved into health and media. I then was the CTO at Investopedia before moving into a automotive disruptor and joining here. This joining Meetup for me was a huge moment. Not only was I a member of, finding soccer buddies to play soccer with. I'm a huge Manchester United fan, so I used to use this almost 6 years ago. And really the opportunity really to join, make an impact, to allow people to connect through this platform and having the opportunity to elevate it was something that I'm very passionate about and super excited to join. And it makes it even better that I have folks like Brian and the team to take this journey with me. So a few things that we're going to be talking about today. I hope everyone here was able to participate in the product roadmap. That is a bit different. We're going to take a big focus on tech. So we want to show in 2021 what our engineering focus is going to be. We'll talk about the big 3S, which you'll find out soon. Brian is going to talk about our new tech stack, the things we've done, where we're moving towards, lots of awesome learnings that we've had that we love to share. And then we'll talk about events. I think that's one of the topics that events help our organizers and our members join and come together. And I want to show under the hood what's really happening there. Just a slight touch, if you will, and then give it back to Brian to talk about mobile apps. And last but not least, we will talk about how did we really organize our teams to be successful in how to achieve all of this? Where did that start and where are we taking it? Next slide. So engineering focus, aside from what we're going to be doing on the product side, we want to really modernize our infrastructure. We're already leveraging AWS, but our technology is, parts of our technology are almost 10, 15, 18 years old. And what we want to do is look at the way we're doing orchestration, look at the way we're actually supporting it across multiple locations, look at how we can look at scale, structure, and really be able to modernize it as we go forward. The next thing I will be looking at is modernizing our front-end frameworks. We have gone through many exercises of which framework should we go and use, what is best for us, but how do we make the experience super modern, not only from the native mobile apps perspective, the web perspective, but adopting principles that will allow us to make it maintainable. So one of the philosophies that we're going to be using development, which is atomic design principles that create synergy between us and what the developers and what we want the outputs to be. The other thing is going to be notifications. Brian's going to be talking a little bit through this. There's tons of things we want to do for notification, whether it's push, SMS, but at the right moment, bringing the right notification to the member side to make it gel really together. But from the engineering perspective, how do we actually do this and make sure that it's going to be top notch? And that is by having a large and huge focus on quality. So in the next few slides, we're going to talk about how we're going to achieve this with quality in 2021. That's where the big three S's come in. We have scalability, speed, and security, and our Meetup tech is in the middle of all of this. So this does not mean we're not going to care about everything that happens from the product side with the user experience, with the designs, but we're looking at it from the engineering perspective to really say, well, we got to have quality on both sides, right? So what are the things we want to focus on? What are the things we want to hold ourselves with high standards to? And these are those. So let's talk about scalability. Next slide, please. So when we talk about scalability, it's really, even though we are using AWS as our primary cloud service provider, we want to be able to make sure that we have redundancies in place, we have high availability, that at no time users get impacted with any latency and any downtime. So the way we do this is by modernizing our infrastructure to say we can be live on multiple regions and be able to choose how we bring things up and down, and the users will not get impacted in any way, but at the end of the day, have a great product experience. We are also going to be advancing a lot of the technologies that now are available as products from AWS, which will just allow more real-time processing or close to real-time processing versus some things that are not there yet. So there's a lot of things we will want to do to sort of bring that up front. The next thing is going to be speed. So for speed, it's a very common topic that you hear all the time. But when you can really make speed something that you don't think about, it really helps all our users. We want our websites to be faster. We want the rendering to be very modern and come organically. We want, whether you're on our native apps and you're offline or you're looking at areas, there is no thought of why is it not loading? Why is it slow? We want this to be blazing fast, and we're taking efforts to do that. We're putting a lot of great monitoring in place. We're looking at the rendering times. We're looking at time to first byte. We're, from a tech perspective, really taking a big focus on how to improve milliseconds versus seconds to be able to really bring this back at really optimal speeds. We're also going to be looking to doing this by using modern pub/sub caching mechanisms. What does that mean? As things are changing, we ensure that things become available to the consumer right away, but it's also caching super robustly that it can come there instantly. So there's a lot of things that we need to do from an infrastructure perspective to be able to get us there, but that is a deep focus. The other thing is we know that we have APIs that are both internal and public. We want to make sure that we address all low latency issues that we have and make sure they're super fast so they can be leveraged across everywhere. At the end of the day, we know the APIs are tightly coupled with our mobile apps. So we know by winning there, we also make that strong. And we know that a lot of our consumers are there. So it's very important for us to make sure that happens. And the next thing I will say is security. Now, this is very important because security in 2020 has been important for us, but it always has to be important. And what we like to say is that, listen, we want to build this into our engineering culture. Brian has taught me so much about what we've done in security here. And I will say that Meetup has done a wonderful, wonderful job here. And we're going to continue doing that, but even getting better. We want to stay ahead of threats. We want to make sure that we can protect the data for our members and organizers. In 2020, we took a lot of steps with authentication, with messaging, with spam. We have a trust and safety team in place. We make sure that we are already doing wonderful things, but we need to continue doing that to be ahead of the curve. And we need to make sure that we can do that in a successful way. We are also building a lot of toolkits and tools to be able to look at this in a daily perspective, but also as we develop, have it help us and coach us organically so that we can have it improve out of the box. There's a lot of steps that we're doing over there, and it's one of the things I wanted to highlight because it is important that we are going to protect our organizers, our members at all times.
All right, oh, sorry. I think we're passing the baton back over to me to talk a little bit through the new tech stack. Some of this will be a recap of, I think, what we talked about in this Meetup Live series last time, but I'll also try to bring you in a little bit on some of the challenges that we've run into along the way and how we're planning on getting through those over into the coming years or coming year. So starting 1 year ago, sort of in the wake of the change in WeWork's corporate structure and their decision to divest Meetup, we knew that we were going to have to make it as a lean, mean, independent organization. And as part of that journey, we made the decision to shift Meetup to a new product and technical platform. The pre-existing Meetup platform, the product of a lot of hard work and dedicated folks over the course of a long time, but dates back around 17 years at this point. It's a really, really significant code base. And those things are eminently improvable, but we'd really struggled, I think, over the years to get it into a place where we felt really confident that we could iterate on some of our product experiences as aggressively and as rapidly as we like. So we made the decision to shift into a new stack and really build a new form of Meetup, right? A new version of the Meetup product for all of you. And we made a number of technical choices that were reflective of technical work that we'd done here internally at Meetup before. So virtually everything here we had some production experience in, and we wanted to take the things that were working for us and really double down on those and make those the foundation of the Meetup experience going forward. This is usually the spot in the talk where we'll show a bunch of icons of all the open source projects that they're using, the databases or whatever. I didn't have time, I confess, to go dig up all those logos, but just to give you kind of the quick overview here, we're really invested in Amazon Web Services as a platform, really great close relationship with them, sometimes too close, and we'll talk about the operations side in a little bit. But we really enjoy Lambda and serverless as a technology. We're strong believers in that as an operational platform going forward. For the cases where we can't use Lambda, we've invested heavily in Fargate, which is I think I'd call it the most hands-off version of AWS's container offerings. We made a big shift to GraphQL as the foundation of our API experience. We really appreciate the flexibility it gives us from a product development standpoint. There have been some challenges for us on the performance and scalability front there, so that's been an interesting learning for us, I think. A lot of the tech industry is throwing in really heavily on React these days, and we're no exception. We'd heavily invested in React prior. We're continuing on that journey, but we're working to standardize in on a particular web platform, and Gatsby's been that choice for us for most of this year. And all of that is resting really in TypeScript. So we appreciate the Node.js ecosystem. We find that the strong typing component of TypeScript is really a game changer in our ability to adopt JavaScript conventions at scale. As I mentioned, we poked at all of them before, but this is the year that we really went big and invested heavily as using them as the basis. And we've now used the technology stack to launch a new homepage to everyone, a new event experience that's still in beta, and a number of other things that are also coming very shortly, including a new logged in homepage. We're working to improve the user experience there. As part of that, we're giving every old page a fresh look and feel. You know, we know how jarring it can feel sometimes as you shift between parts of the system. That's something we're looking to invest in really heavily in Q1, that we're making a big push to get that stuff updated so that you all have the best experience you possibly can, particularly on the website of Meetup. We're going to continue to ship major performance improvements across every aspect of the platform that includes both web and mobile. That's something that Rajib, I know, is really passionate about and really looking to drive in his leadership role here. So we're really thankful for that on the technical side. And also we want to continue to phase out our old notification system. This is a place where we think Meetup has to be really good for all of you, for all of our organizers and members. Notifications are one of the most important ways that you all communicate with your members, and our members stay in touch with the groups that they're interested in and are able to come back and be a part of these ongoing events. We've invested really heavily here in the past, but building a lot of bespoke software that hasn't always stood the test of time for us. We're making a big investment here in moving to a third-party platform that we think can elevate the notifications experience. So expect a lot more visible product work here in the coming months. On the mobile app side specifically, as I mentioned already, performance improvement is a big focus for us. More recently, I think I talked earlier about the investments that we made in improving the search experience this year, and we're really proud of how much more relevant our search results have become. But, and there's a big but, you all gave us a lot of really critical feedback on some of the features that we chose to omit in our first rollout of the search experience to the mobile platform. Specifically, I think, made the decision not to roll out with search filters that allowed you to hone in on particular dates. So we're adding those back in. Thank you to all of you who submitted that feedback to us and got us interested in making sure that that was working the way you expected. And we want to continue to elevate the mobile platform going forward, right? So we think that's really important for our members and organizers to stay connected through the mobile apps. This is becoming even more interesting as I don't know, I'm an Apple user myself, and Apple rolled out those M1 Macs, and I don't know, I'm excited to see what we can do there, but no promises. And then on the event side, I'm gonna pass the baton back over to Rajib, and he's gonna walk you through what you can expect to see in the event side in the engineering space in 2021.
Thanks, Ryan. So, events is one of those things that we know it's critical, but under the hood, there's a lot happening of how do we surface this? How do we make sure that it's discoverable? And I wanted to share what we're going to be looking at in 2021 to really, that really touches on how these events are going to become discoverable. Next slide. So what we are really looking to do is, well, let me explain a little bit. Our events, we want to evolve the way we actually make them discoverable. So behind the scenes, our data and modeling team has tons of different unique algorithms that help us surface these events. But what we want to do is really start looking into tailoring them to be more effective. With now how we have online events versus in-person events, it's changed the dynamics of what we want to surface, what is more relevant, and how we're actually scoring. And under the hood, we're looking at how we look at all of those areas and the algorithms that we have to go and touch, but really shift it to see what makes best sense by doing a lot of tests and adapting to the needs of our members. So there is tons of things that are going to be happening here that we're going to look to improve that will be coming. We will always be looking to improve search and filters and what recommendations are coming back. We are also including more geo-based controls and geo-based opportunities even behind the scenes that will surface things in a more relevant way to our members. Again, I think personalization is another thing we're going to be focusing on as we look at how can we, whether events are popular, whether they are more close to you, but the right one to join because you've just finished one type of event. How do we all bring all of this together, but look at it from the members' perspective that are joining these events to pull it together? These are always going to be super critical things that we will always need to advance, but these are going to be focuses that we have. We also want to make sure as we are creating more events, it's important that we bring organic audiences to them. So how do we make sure that we are creating the events, but making sure the search engines can find them? So if others are looking and researching of where to find this and they're not part of Meetup, bringing them into our fold so they can actually find the events and then join the events, even if they're not, everybody should know our platform, but if we don't know our platform, we want to still make sure they have a way to find the events. So we're doing a lot of things to make sure that we are compliant with SEO standards and rules and making sure we have solid control over that. Notifications, I'm not going to spend too much time here, but as we move forward, as you personalize, as you make things more discoverable, we know notifications with that is also going to be important because it can help surface those events. So there's going to be a tie-in over there. And the last thing I'll say is sharing functionalities. As new events, new organizers, new groups, as all of these are coming together, There's ways that we can pull in more members to them by organic sharing and things that we have. I've done this before in my career. This one is I sit a little closer to. We can just do things a bit more efficiently here, where I think it will pull more folks to join. So it's a subtle point, but I wanted to make it because it is an important one. On that note, these the events I wanted to just highlight what's going to be happening. I do want to make sure that mobile events, all of those areas, there's going to be deeper conversations that we have set aside in the future as really deep dives into those things and tech talks. So the reason we're not going all the way in is they're large topics, tons of things to do. And I think we want to make sure that we give it the right time with the folks that want to hear about them. So next slide. On this, I am going to hand it over to Brian. We've talked about in 2021 all the engineering things we're going to do, but this is something that we've already started doing to see how we can accommodate and structure our teams to make this successful. And this is a topic that Brian and I talked about mentioning here because it's a massive topic, but this is something that many organizations struggle with, and we wanted to share what has been working because it's a great and fantastic way that we've solved for this. So I'm going to hand it over to Brian to discuss this.
Hey, folks. So yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about what we've done on the team front this year, just to walk you through how we've been thinking about structuring internally. A couple of months ago, we found ourselves with a dilemma within engineering, I think, which is that we'd had a lot of change. We, like a lot of organizations, experienced a lot of change in 2020. The shift out of WeWork was disruptive. There were a lot of folks who had settled into a team that sort of grew organically, but we weren't seeing the results from an organization and iterative perspective that we were hoping for. I really like teams to be small enough where everyone involved in the team has a really rich understanding of what's going on, can organize themselves around the problems that are in front of them and shift accordingly. And that has a really strong focus and allows us to really make bets. And so you really, every organization is a little bit different, but you're kind of looking for that Goldilocks number, like how many folks are the right number of folks, how many discrete skill sets that they need. You want those teams to have the institutional knowledge and the skill sets that they need to be successful, that also understand really the goals that they're looking to optimize for. So we went ahead and we're following a structure that we call pods. And a pod is really, call it roughly 4 engineers or 2 pairs of engineers, I like to think about it, with a product manager and a designer both attached. We want these teams to feel small enough that they can really have an impact on a particular area of Meetup's product and engineering systems, but small enough that they can self-organize within that challenge and don't have to support too many discrete moving pieces. We wanted them to really optimize around fast learning, right? So a small iteration, a tight iteration speed for each one of those pods. And to be cross-disciplinary and to have that localized context to solve these problems. And we've been really thrilled with the results. Folks are, I think, more connected to the pod that they're with. We're seeing a lot of collaboration within those pods. We have 1 or 2 pods that mob almost entirely on the problem in front of them. So they'll all collaborate together as a group of 3 or 4 engineers on the same problem at once. And for some things, it slows you down, but for some things, it hyper accelerates because you have so much focus on getting each individual thing out the door. We think that engineers are communicating across pods more effectively too, because those pods have a singular focus and you have a coupling point that works for them. So we've been really happy with the journey on that front. We're not all the way done there yet. There's some optimization still to come on that front, but we've been really pleased with the results, I think, on our end. And with that, I'll hand it back over to Rajib, I think, to close it out.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to I missed on one point that I think is a important thing. Which is online events. I wanted to just highlight, because I missed this part. Online events, we know, is part of our future. It is something that when we're looking at 2021, we know as part of our product and engineering roadmaps that it is here to stay. It is part of what is loved by many of the folks today, and it's now part of the new norm. So if there are questions about that, we're going to be excited to answer any of them, but it is here to stay. It is going to be part of the experiences that we're going to be giving. And it is something that has tremendously helped both our community and us learn different avenues of how we can make this work, where now events here, but can be joined by folks outside of the country and in many areas. It's bringing more audiences in, and we want to make sure we can continue to do that. It was something that I missed stating earlier, and I wanted to make sure I touch on that. But I do want to say this was the first time I've done the Meetup tech update here. So I would love to hear more about, what we want to know more. Where are the areas that we should focus on? Do you want a mixture of more product and tech things together? This for us, it was a moment to say, we'd love to show you how we can do this in different ways, but I wanted to really start this off focusing on engineering and tech. And then based on the feedback we get, we will absolutely bring other topics much more closer and speak to them in much more detail, because we love the feedback and we love the inputs, and they're very important for us. Brian, did you want to add anything here?
No, I think that's it on my end.
All right, I think then we can ready. Let's start the Q&A. Brian, I'm going to ask you to take the lead while I look at some of the questions to be able to answer as well.
All right, I'll start us off. First off, I want to call out Joshua a little bit. Joshua, you started off by saying that you have so many questions for us, but I'm not seeing those questions yet. Please do fire them in our direction. I'd love to hear what's on your mind. Let's see. Alexi asked, are you planning to integrate with any other applications? For example, Zoom or Constant Contact? I think that's maybe related to a question from David. Is there or will there be an API to integrate Meetup events with events and other software, for example, Nation Builder or Action Network, so that creating in one system automatically generates an event in the other? That's going to be a tough question for us to answer in this forum. We're trying to stay a little bit more focused on the tech and engineering side, and I think that there's a lot of product vision question in those questions that I don't know if we're the right people to answer them. I think that we are actively discussing both of those things. We're talking about what would it take to elevate our online event experience and exploring both a deeper integration with Zoom and options across the video chat spectrum. But I don't think we have any specific plans to share with you all today. Rajib, please correct me if I'm wrong there. And on the integration front, likewise, we've discussed what it would take to integrate our events more tightly with other systems around us. But again, I don't think we have any specific plans to share today.
That is correct. That one is something we can get back to. I do see there was I'm jumping on to another question. Someone asked conferencing features, what are the different things that we're going to be doing? The best way to answer that is we're actually looking at what we can do. We're looking at whether from partnerships or for different areas, how are there things that we want to do organically? Are we going to look at alternatives? We are looking to see what we can do there if we're going to do something there. We don't have an answer. We're looking at different tools. We're looking and evaluating what can be done there before we make any decisions. So it might be a good topic that we can come back to once we actually know. We know there are areas of improvement. We're trying to figure out if we can, if we're going to be building or partnering or doing something different.
All righty. Gil asked, would you like to know when you'll be able to add payments for events on the app? I don't have a timeline to share, but we do have, I think, news on that front, right? So as a lot of you know, and as we touched on earlier, we're actively building towards a rich new events experience for the Meetup space. That events experience has payments integrated and ticketing integrated as a first class concern. So expect more to see on that front. We're trying to, we're actively, actually, Rajib is really leading the charge here right now on understanding what a rollout strategy looks like for that, and when we can expect to see that come out in the coming months. I'll maybe hand it over to him to expand on that a little bit.
Hey, Brian.
Yeah.
I'm having a little connection issue here. Give me, okay. Sorry, it's coming on and off.
Okay. I think my answer there was just that we, as I mentioned, we've built this event experience that elevates ticketing and payment to a first-class concern. Rajib has been leading the charge to plan and organize that work, and I wanted to hand it over to him to maybe expand on that a little bit. Do you have specific guidance on when we might be able to expect to see sort of elevated payment experience in the apps?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I think we're actually looking at that in the next few months. We've already started looking at, we started doing some of the plumbing for that. So how we're going to be integrating, integrations have already started. It's really how do we roll this out? How do we actually synergize on what we need to do for everyone, and really test it out before we roll it out for everyone. So it is coming. It is in the works. So it's not now that we are not focusing on it, it's just a little bit further out because we want to make sure we do it 100% right.
And ditto, by the way, for the text formatting question, text formatting will be coming in as part of that as well. Let's see. Oh, go ahead, Rajib. Sorry.
A good question out there saying, how are we selecting the right tech stack, right, on what we need to do? So I think that's a wonderful question. We're actually approaching it by looking at what we're trying to solve for, right? Our platform that we currently have today, the applications that make up that platform are extremely old. So they are not modern in the way that how the browsers even can refresh. They are not modern in just the frameworks themselves and how we can build things out and repurpose and reuse. So we look at a bunch of different things. The one I would say, we're looking at speed, right? We're looking at how quickly we can iterate. We're looking at if we need to play for SEO, or we need to play for more features that are going to be heavily loaded or have complex things behind the scenes, what the right thing to use is. There isn't one solution. We're figuring out what the best solutions are and what architectures fit into our larger platform. So there isn't a silver bullet here, but we do a lot of thorough research to make sure that it works, and we do a lot of spikes to actually to find out what it would actually take before we go into the real dev cycles.
Alrighty, I see one up here on, let's see, how do you decide on AWS versus Google or something else? Well, this one is rather specific to us, but also pretty easy from our standpoint. We made a major shift into the cloud several years ago. As part of our cost optimization strategy, we entered into an agreement with AWS that we would commit more closely to their services and get some consideration from them on a from a support perspective. That agreement predates both my own tenure here and Rajib's. And I mean, we are thrilled with it. And one of the great things about working with AWS is that you know that when you commit to one of their technologies, you can expect it to be supported well into the future, right? And so we feel really confident about making a bet on anything that they roll out because they are so customer oriented. I don't personally feel the same level of confidence with the Google Cloud stuff all the time. I admire their tech tremendously. I'm a little more nervous about committing in a large way to an ecosystem in which deprecation is pursued as a strategy quite so frequently. So, and it can be a blessing and a curse. For us, it means that when we make a decision, we can afford to stick with it for a long time and know that we can't be forced to move off it. But it also means that there's no sort of external incentive to shift off of things past a certain point.
Yeah, I see Norm asked, how will your search engine be improved? I think this is part of what I was discussing with events and behind the scenes, a lot of the things that are happening. We have custom models and training that actually surface what actually comes back from our searches. And so that is something that there's a lot of focus of what we will be doing. As the filters come in, as the different things come in, the scoring systems that we're revamping, those all take place into what is actually going to be surfaced. There are things now when we do release, we make sure that we release, we test, we make sure that we get user feedback before it rolls out. So sometimes you may get that, you may not get that, but we're seeing extremely positive results, and we're going to continue to expand on those. But we know search is important. We know it's the way that you can find events, you can find groups, so we know there needs to be a deep focus there, and we'll always continue to improve that.
All right, Joshua asked, why aren't you developing your own video teleconferencing offerings so that we can better utilize the insane price we are paying for Meetup? That's a great question, and thank you for asking it. I just to sort of give some perspective on that. And as a reminder, I also pay that that price out of pocket, and I get it. It's a chunk. Um, we developing it's something we've certainly actively talked about, but we're nervous about being able to roll it out at scale given our size. Just to give you some perspective, we have about 25 full-time engineers right now in our core teams, and a number of other partners that we work with along the journey. And that's enough engineers to make, I think, a really significant change in a lot of ways. But building a video teleconferencing system at the kind of scale that we operate at is not a trivial problem. I recognize that you'd love to see some of that subscription go towards that kind of a solution. I'm not sure that we're at a place right now where we think it's core enough to the value that we offer all of you that we feel like it's worth investing really heavily in there. I certainly see the value in a more tightly integrated solution there. And I think I mentioned earlier, something that we've talked about a little bit and have spoken to partners about. And so I'm not in a position to signal anything firm today, but we know that there exists an opportunity to do better here. And it's something that we talk about frequently as part of our engineering and product planning process. Rajib, do you have anything more to add there?
I also think that as we are evaluating other ways to do this, if a lot of the times they don't fit what we want. And so we don't also want to introduce something that will not be a positive. And so we're being very rigorous and detailed if we are looking at outside opportunities to integrate. So I just want to put that out there. It's not that we didn't also look and will not continue to look, but we also don't want to put something there that will also upset everyone. So it's that making sure that we do our due diligence and making sure we make that right decision to pull the right thing in. I will jump to the next question. Hayden asked, generally, why AWS versus Google Other? I think Brian, you already touched on this, but you know, we work with AWS. There are some things that are on GCP, but we are primarily focused on AWS. Our infrastructure, some pieces, we've decided that we want to be with AWS, and there's a lot of their products that have are core to us that we've integrated with, and we want to continue going there. We have a great relationship with AWS. They're great partners with us as well, and that becomes a very helping hand when we need it. So it's not that we can't go to Google or somewhere else. We've just have done a lot of work here, and where we want to focus is not shifting to a different cloud provider, but more on making sure we build the right products that effectively help our organizers and members as a focus.
I see a question out there from Shayak Banerjee. Hey, Shayak, how's it going? The question is, there seem to be a lot of positives with the pod-based teams. Are there some negatives as well? Yeah, I think so. I think there are always trade-offs with this. My biggest worry with this sort of an arrangement is our, you're always looking for that Goldilocks number. Ours might be a little bit too small, right? You're really hoping that with 4 engineers, you can have that big impact. But the more teams you have, the more potential I think there is for cross-team coordination challenges and making sure that they're all able to get on the same page and share not only learnings, but also challenges they're having with the tech stack, the things that are happening along the way. I think that's one of the trade-offs that we're having right now is that we do see pods that come into some confusion or don't feel as though they're able to act with the autonomy that they'd like because they don't necessarily have the localized knowledge about what's going on all at once at the same time. I think it's a trade-off worth making, but I do think it's been a bit of a challenge for us. It's also, if the goal here really is autonomous cross-platform teams, that's a really heavy expectation for just 4 people, I think, at least in our tech stack. And so as a result, most of the pods are not really entirely cross-platform. They're focused in on 1 or 2 or 3 areas of concern, right? So maybe it's web plus backend plus a little bit of operations, or maybe it's mobile plus backend plus a heavy design component, right? And I think that's how we try to square that circle.
Yeah, I'll add one point to that. I think one of my observations with the pods and why they're so successful, it's a lot of companies, when they look at agile teams, they're very afraid to move people out of those teams. And as pods, it has the flexibility to say that, hey, this is a focus, but there's another focus, and someone can lean on and join that pod and shift around. And this fluidity that's organic is extremely positive for the organization because it helps everyone know the different code bases, the different platforms, what's happening. And that is a huge, huge plus for engineers, because now no one's in the dark. So yes, it takes work though. It takes a lot of communication, but as those things become more organic, it becomes very, very productive.
I see a related question here from Kim Scott that I want to call out with regard to the team structure. I figured as long as we're on this topic, we can touch on it as well. Do we have Scrum Masters or PMs? Do we have business analysts and testers? And just in brief here, because I think there's still some more questions we'd like to get through, and we're running out of time. We do have product managers for each individual pod. We don't have Scrum Masters right now. Our expectation is that our engineering leads and engineering managers should be able to take on a lot of the process organization side. We don't have any business analysts, but we have a tremendous data team, and we do a lot of data analysis and strategy on that side. I think on the last piece, testers, we have testers here and there. It's a strategy that we've gone back and forth on. And I think we're looking to maybe ramp up our commitment there going into 2021.
All right, I'm trying to see if we have any other questions that we missed.
I think there's a good, I don't know, this is a TypeScript question. It's a little nerdy, but we can give it a go.
Go for it.
I think I saw a question, I saw some scattered commentary on like Scala versus TypeScript versus other stuff. TypeScript to me is a good sort of Goldilocks choice. It gives you a pretty good type system. You can, for better and for worse, break out of that type system if you have to. It compiles down to perform a JavaScript, which is great. I think that James asked, my team is also doing TypeScript for the client and for the server. How have you found code sharing across front end and back end? You have to be cautious about understanding where your code is being executed, but by and large, I think it's been okay for us. We don't do a ton of code sharing back and forth. What we do is GraphQL has types associated with the data structures that it shares as well. So what we do is we use a library to generate strong types for our data structures on the client side and on the server side as well. And that gives us the flexibility to have a reasonable, I think, confidence in the transport mechanism between client and server. There's some complication and some friction around the generation of those types, but by and large, we think it works okay for us. All right, I think we can do one more question. Let's see. This is surprisingly stressful scanning this as we're trying to keep you all entertained at the same time. Here, maybe this is a good forward-looking one, Rajib, and I'll punt this one over to you as well. What's the time frame besides just 2021?
Wow, for which part that becomes no, that's a wonderful question. Our goal collectively is to be able to put features out quickly. So in what all of those areas that you talked about, that we talked about, they will be coming much earlier in our in Q1, Q2 versus Q3, Q4. We want to be able to unify, I don't want to say unified, I'll say to provide the best user experience across the different applications we have now and how we want to shift those over. There's a big focus happening over the next few months to be able to do that. We're looking at it in terms of which ones have the biggest impact and can improve the experiences the most, and we'll be looking to get those out very fast. There's going to be more sessions like this that we will share, where we will have closer timelines that we can absolutely share. But I think if for everyone here, if you look at what's happening on the product roadmap, that's something we can share a link out as well to say, hey, what's happening on the product side, which will then facilitate to see, hey, what's also happening from the under the hood and plumbing side on the engineering side. So I know it's an open answer. We're working on it. There's going to be tons of things that we're going to release, but it's going to be in progress. I believe we're officially out of time here, Brian. And I feel like we got a good handle on a lot of the questions that came through. We'll try to look at any questions that we may have missed here and determine how we can get answers out for those. But I wanted to say thank you for everyone for joining. We are looking forward to the feedback. We love criticism, constructive criticism. We want to get better than this. So if there's something that you feel is missing, let us know. Again, a lot of the tech talks, we want it to be very tech heavy, so we love your ideas. So please do share. All right.
Thanks everyone for your time. We appreciate it.
Bye-bye.